Have you ever had that strange feeling that a person in your life didn't just happen? As if behind that encounter, there was an invisible hand orchestrating every detail. What if that person wasn't just someone, but someone Allah Himself sent for you? Do you think you'd recognize them? Do you think you'd see the signs? Stay there until the end. Because if Allah places that soul by your side, you won't just see a change. You'll see very specific things that no one else can trigger in you.
Imagine years of prayer, years of resting your forehead on the ground, whispering words in secret that no one hears except Allah. Years of asking Him for one thing, a sign, an answer, a person who is more than a presence, a soul who comes like deliverance. And in this silence, you continue to live. You continue to wait. But inside, you wonder, are my supplications heard? Do my tears really have weight in the sky? Then one day, without warning, that encounter arrives. Not in the spectacular setting you had imagined, not with bursts of light or visible miracles, but in the purest simplicity. And yet, your heart recognizes something, as if this encounter carried a familiar scent, as if your soul already knew that this moment was no ordinary one. Because when Allah sends someone into your life, it's not just a new relationship. It's not a coincidence that you explain with "it's destiny." No, it's a decree. And this decree carries a scent of guidance. And then, your heart doesn't react as it usually does. It doesn't race with an irrational fear of loss. It doesn't race blindly behind emotion. No, it calms down. As if everything you've been searching for outside of yourself has finally condensed into one thing: the certainty that Allah guides your steps. You see, the difference is subtle but immense. When you choose out of desire, you feel an insatiable hunger, an anguish, a fear of being abandoned. But when it's Allah who chooses for you, you feel a peace that doesn't depend on the physical presence of another. You feel an inner stability that is not tied to human promises, but to Allah's silent promise. I have heard you, and I have answered you. That moment is anything but ordinary. It's as if, after walking for a long time in a burning desert, you finally come across a spring of pure water. Not an illusion, not a mirage. A real spring placed exactly where you thought you would succumb to thirst. And you understand, it's not the water that is miraculous, it's the timing. For if you had found it earlier, you would not have learned patience. If you had found it later, you might have given up. This is the wisdom of Allah when He sends someone your way, never too early, never too late, just when your heart is able to see. And suddenly you realize that everything you've been through before, the silences, the waiting, the wounds no one understood, the nights you thought your prayers were being lost in the void, all of this has prepared you for this moment. You didn't wait for nothing. You didn't suffer for nothing. Every scar has become a key that has allowed you to recognize what truly comes from Allah. Because you could have met 1,000 faces, but none would have brought you this peace. You could have heard 1,000 sweet words, but none would have erased the weight in your chest. But when Allah sends, it's not the person who shines. It's the light that shines through their existence and touches your soul directly. And then, everything changes. Not because you found someone, but because, for the first time, you understand what it means to be guided through another human being. You understand that Allah's answers don't always fall from the sky in the form of visible miracles. Sometimes they walk, they talk, they smile. Sometimes they take the form of a person. But be careful. It's not attachment that is the true sign. It's peace. For attachment can arise from your ego, your inner emptiness, your emotional deprivation. But peace? That only Allah can instill. It's a peace that transcends words. A peace that doesn't shout, that doesn't press, that doesn't destroy. A peace that gently settles in your heart and says, here is a path. And you stand there, observing what's happening inside you. You realize that this is no accident, that it's not a simple crossroads. You understand that something greater is at stake, something beyond your logic, beyond your calculations, even beyond your desires. You understand that in this precise moment, Allah has just answered all those lonely nights when you spoke to Him without receiving a response. And then, the question burns within you. What if this person really was the one Allah sent? What if this peace was the sign I've been waiting for so long? There are people who pass through your life like passers-by on a street. You catch their eye, exchange a few words, but nothing really changes. Your heart remains the same. Your spirit remains charged. Your faith remains the same. Then, there are those other people. Those who, as soon as they cross the threshold of your life, the air seems lighter. The space around you transforms. You don't know why, but their mere presence acts like an invisible reorganization of your inner universe. One morning, you wake up and notice something strange. Your thoughts, usually scattered, suddenly seem more orderly. Your intentions, once cluttered by doubt and fear, become purer. Your eyes, accustomed to looking at things through fatigue, resentment, or nostalgia, begin to see higher, further, as if your gaze were no longer limited to the earth, but were beginning to seek the sky. It's subtle, and no one around you really understands. But you, deep down, know this isn't ordinary. Because deep down, this person didn't come to distract you. They came to remind you. And this reminder wasn't man-made. It was whispered by Allah. You then feel a unique impression that this bond wasn't born in this world, but was written long before you. That this encounter is the fruit of a plan that surpasses anything you could have imagined or orchestrated. As if heaven had decided to place this soul by your side to be a living sign, an answer to your silent call. And what's so moving is that this isn't a romantic story. It's not the illusion the modern world tries to sell. Empty promises, burning passions that fade faster than they ignite. Number. What's at stake here is deeper, more sacred. It's a spiritual story. Imagine a house plunged into darkness for years. You've learned to walk through it despite the darkness, to grope your way forward, to sense the contours of the walls. You've grown accustomed to stumbling, to getting up, to navigating the darkness. Then suddenly, someone opens a window. Not a large opening, not a blinding light, but a simple ray that gently enters and transforms everything. The house is the same. The objects haven't changed, but your gaze finally sees clearly. That's what the presence of the person sent by Allah is. It's not a firework that distracts you. It's a gentle light that reorients you. It doesn't add a weight to your soul. It lightens your burden. It doesn't just fulfill your emotional needs. It straightens your path to the one who created you. And the more time you spend with her, the more you discover something even more surprising. You're not just inspired to become a better person for her, you're inspired to become a better person for Allah. Your prayers become more sincere, your heart softens, your relationship with your mistakes changes. You no longer want to hide behind your faults, you want to rise up to deserve the guidance Allah has just placed before you. It's a silent revolution. No grand speeches, no grand theories. Just a presence. But a presence that acts as a constant reminder. As if Allah, through this person, were repeating to you every day, I have never forgotten you. I have never abandoned you. And this is proof that I walk with you. But be careful. This story is not easy. Because this light sometimes also highlights the dark areas within you. You become aware of your weaknesses, your habits that distance you, your spiritual negligence. And then, two choices open up. Flee or confront. And if you stay, if you accept that this encounter is not only a blessing but also a mirror, then you understand that you haven't met someone. You've met a mission. And every detail becomes a sign. Their smile becomes a reminder of gratitude. Their silence becomes a reminder of patience. Their way of walking by your side becomes a reminder that you are not alone on your journey to Allah. You realize that sometimes Allah doesn't only speak to your heart through trials. He also speaks through the souls He sends as living answers. So you continue on your path with this new certainty. You haven't just found a person, you've found proof. Proof that your invocations, even the most secret, have never been lost in the void. And deep down, you begin to ask yourself a burning question. If Allah has placed this soul in my path, what does He expect from me through her? You know what's strange? When it's someone sent by Allah, you don't feel the weight of attachment. You feel the weight of responsibility, because attachment is heavy. It suffocates. It confines you. It makes you live in fear of loss, in anxiety about tomorrow. You cling to someone's presence like a fragile lifeline. And every moment you fear that this lifeline will disappear and you'll plunge back into the void. It's exhausting. But when Allah places someone in your path, it's not that emptiness that speaks. It's your soul that awakens. You don't feel the dependence. You feel the call to become stronger. Your heart then says to you, I'm not here just to love. I'm here to grow, to rise up, to move towards what I'm meant to become. And you understand something overwhelming. Allah didn't give you this person to fill your void. He gave them to awaken your mission. This bond isn't a prison. It's an elevation. It doesn't lock you in. It pushes you to open doors you had long since kept closed. Doors to a better version of yourself. Doors to your soul. Doors to your Lord. And the more you move forward, the more you realize that this person isn't an end in itself. They're a means. A means to remind you of the one who created you. A means to help you escape stagnation. A means to make you understand that you weren't born to survive, but to rise. It's as if your soul finally recognized the direction it had been searching for a long time. You didn't have the words. You didn't know exactly what you were waiting for. But your heart carried a thirst, a longing, a call. And suddenly, through this encounter, the call finds an answer. Not a complete answer, but an answer that directs, that guides. As if Allah had whispered to your soul, it's this way. And this responsibility I'm talking about, it's strange. Because it doesn't weigh like a burden, it weighs like a mission. It doesn't crush you, it gives you value. It tells you that your life isn't meant to remain locked in mediocrity, in the repetition of your mistakes, in the regrets of the past. It tells you that you must rise up, that you must change, that you must deserve the guidance that Allah has just placed on your path. It's as if, in front of this person, your excuses crumble. You can no longer hide behind your wounds, behind your traumas, behind the words, I'm too broken, I'm too lost. I'm not ready. Because their presence reminds you that you are capable of more, that Allah has already forgiven you for things you can't forgive yourself for, that He still has plans for you, even when you thought your life had lost its direction. And in this bond, there is something the outside world doesn't understand. Because from the outside, people think that love is only about feelings, emotions, and promises. But what you feel here is of a different order. It's a love that doesn't need to be loud, that doesn't need to be constantly displayed. It's a silent but powerful love, because it's rooted in Allah. It's not a love that says, "You belong to me." It's a love that says, "We belong to Allah, and it is towards Him that we walk together." And you see the difference in every detail. In the way your heart beats, not out of fear of loss, but out of a desire to become better. In the way your thoughts turn, not toward illusions, but toward prayers. In the way your past mistakes cease to be a source of shame and become fuel to never fall again. And this person becomes a constant reminder that your life is not over, that your faults do not define you, that your future is still open. You begin to see that your story, even with its pages blackened by pain, was actually a preparation. A preparation to recognize guidance when it presents itself. And perhaps you had grown accustomed to your chaos, your emptiness, your invisible chains. But with this encounter, everything that held you prisoner begins to crack. You no longer feel the weight of dependence, you feel the breath of liberation. As if Allah had placed a key before you, and that key was saying to you, the doors of your soul are still open. You can still walk, so you stand there facing this new reality. You sense that this is no coincidence. You know it's no accident. And in the silence of your heart, a question arises, insistent, burning. What does Allah expect of me now that I have found this sign?
It's as if two flames meet. Not two destructive flames, not two fires that fight each other until they go out. No, two flames that when they come together, don't consume, but illuminate. And suddenly, the darkness that has surrounded you for years begins to dissipate. Not because the room has changed, but because the light has finally found a way. It's like two rivers flowing separately, each with its own history, its twists and turns, its falls, its storms. They move forward alone, each in its own valley, but at a precise moment they join. And what were two isolated streams become a single force. Wider, deeper, more powerful. Where they meet, there is no loss. There is no struggle. There is a union that gives birth to something greater. The person sent by Allah is like that stream that joins yours. She's not here to steal your water, to divert your flow, to dry you up. She's here to blend with your path, so that the strength of your united souls can carry more, advance further, and cross lands you would never have crossed alone. And what's amazing is that she never extinguishes you. She doesn't dim your light. She doesn't make you feel small. No, she multiplies your clarity. Because this person doesn't come with the arrogance of taking. She comes with the humility of sharing. And in this sharing, there is an abundance that only Allah knows how to create. Every moment with her becomes a silent reminder. Not a loud reminder, not one that shames you, not one that belittles you, but a gentle, almost imperceptible reminder, like a breeze that caresses your face and says, Allah has heard you. A reminder that doesn't distract you from Him, but brings you back to Him. And the more you observe, the more you understand that this bond is unlike any other. Because the world has taught you that love consumes, that it tires, that it devours energy and leaves behind ruins. But what you feel here is the opposite. You don't feel empty. You feel filled. You don't feel chained. You feel liberated. You don't feel erased. You feel revealed.
It's as if Allah has placed a mirror before you that shows you not just your face, but your soul. And through that soul, you see what you could become if you truly walk towards Him. You see your potential, you see your strength, you see your light. A light you had forgotten, or perhaps you had never dared to believe was real. The person sent by Allah doesn't come to assign you a role or impose an identity on you. She comes to awaken what was dormant within you. Like rain falling on dry ground, it doesn't create life from nothing. It reveals seeds that have been buried forever. And when these seeds germinate, you understand that you weren't sterile, that your heart wasn't dead, that Allah had only waited for the perfect moment to send the rain. And when you're by her side, you feel something words struggle to describe. It's like an inner calm, a serenity you've never tasted. Not a fleeting excitement, not a fragile euphoria, but a profound peace. A peace that doesn't depend on the future, that doesn't depend on human promises, but is rooted in the fact that this encounter bears the trace of the divine. Because sometimes Allah doesn't need to speak to respond. Sometimes He doesn't need to send you a sign written in the sky or a spectacular dream. Sometimes His answer walks beside you, sits with you, smiles at you, and through that smile, He says to you, I am here. I have heard you. Then you begin to look at your life differently. You no longer see this person as a temporary addition. You see them as a light that has revealed your path. You understand that the true blessing is not in the fact that they are there, but in what they provoke in you, a return to Allah, a new intensity in your faith, an ability to rise up when you thought you could no longer. And in the silence of your heart, a growing realization dawns. This light is not meant to distract you from the essential. It is meant to bring you back to it. And then a question arises, stronger than all the others. What am I going to do with this light that Allah has just placed in my life? How do you know it's her? You don't know it from sweet words, from promises that shine on the surface. Number, you know it because deep down, something changes. You no longer feel empty. You no longer feel in this constant turmoil. You feel the closeness of Allah more than ever, as if His presence were manifested through this encounter. How do you know it's not just your heart inventing a story? Because this bond doesn't push you away, it lifts you up. It doesn't draw you towards your weaknesses, it tears you from your shadows. It doesn't fuel your addictions, it doesn't encourage your negligence, it doesn't feed your wounds. No, it pushes you to face them, to overcome them, to finally want to be a better version of yourself. How do you know it's not a passing illusion? Because even far from her, the impact remains. You don't need His voice every day to feel the impact of this encounter. You don't need His hand to keep you going. Your faith grows, your soul breathes, and you feel that Allah is telling you, this person was a sign, not a crutch. And how do you differentiate between simple attachment and a sign from Allah? Attachment makes you anxious, jealous, dependent. You're afraid of losing. You watch, you doubt, you exhaust yourself. But when it's a sign from Allah, it's the opposite. You're not afraid of losing. You're afraid of losing your connection with Him. You understand that this connection wasn't placed in your life to distract you, but to bring you closer. How do you know it's not your ego speaking? Because your ego wants to take. But here, you feel the urge to give. Your ego wants to control. But here, you learn to let go, to trust in Allah's plan. Your ego wants to possess. But here, you discover what it means to walk side by side, unshackled, unburdened, in a freedom that comes only from Allah. How do you know it's not just the emotion of the moment? Because emotions flare quickly, and they fade even faster. But here, It's not a fragile flame. It's a steady, deep ember, which doesn't go out with distance or time. You can go days without seeing her, weeks without hearing her voice, and yet your heart remains connected, not to her, but to Allah through her. How do you know it's guidance and not a trap? Because you become more aware of your prayers, because you feel the need to purify your intention, because you begin to think differently, to act differently, to speak differently. You become more vigilant, more attentive to your choices, more aligned with your faith, and no illusion can produce that. And do you know what's most powerful? It's that this person doesn't take up all the space. They don't become your center. Number. They push you to put Allah back at the center. They don't suffocate you, they free you. They don't lock you in fear, they project you into hope. They don't steal your heart, they help you offer it to the one to whom it truly belongs. So how do you know it's not just you clinging to a dream? Because dreams, you chase them. But you don't need to chase this person. You walk, you pray, you move forward, and you realize that Allah has placed them at your pace. Not so that you exhaust yourself running, but so that you can continue walking straight. And how do you know it's not just too good to be true? Because it's not always beautiful. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes this person confronts you with truths you didn't want to see. Sometimes they force you to leave your comfort zone, to abandon your excuses, to face your wounds. And you know what? You accept it. Because you understand that this is Allah's mercy, not just giving you what you want, but also sending you what will elevate you. And deep down, how do you know this is truly the person sent by Allah? Because everything about them calls you to one thing, to return to Him. You don't lose yourself in their gaze, you find yourself in your faith. You don't forget yourself in them. You rediscover yourself in Allah. You don't build a cult around them. You build a stronger relationship with your Lord. And when you think about it, a question becomes inevitable. A question you can no longer ignore. If Allah has sent me this sign through a person, am I ready to honor this gift? Or will I miss out on what my soul has always been waiting for? And sometimes, Allah doesn't give you this person to fill an emotional void. Number. He gives them to you to break your pride. Because you don't always see your pride. It hides behind your wounds. It hides behind your forced independence, behind your phrases. I don't need anyone. I'm enough on my own. I'll get through this alone. But Allah knows. Allah knows that your heart, secretly, is growing tired of carrying alone what it was never created to carry. So He sends you a soul, not to flatter your ego, not to give you an illusion of strength, but to crack the walls you've built around yourself. And you had built these walls high, so high that no one dared cross them anymore. You thought they were protecting you, but in reality, they were suffocating you. Allah places this person there to remind you that you are not meant to walk alone, because the path to Him is not one of absolute solitude. Yes, there are times when you must be alone with your Lord. But there are also times when He opens a door for you through another human being. And if you refuse this outstretched hand, it is not strength. It is pride. And pride is what prevents your soul from bowing, what blocks your tears, what closes your heart to signs. So Allah, in His mercy, sends you a person who is not there to worship you, but to teach you how to subdue your ego. You resist at first. You tell yourself, no, I don't need anyone. No, I won't let anyone into my world. But the more you resist, the more you feel that it is not an intrusion. It is a liberation. This person doesn't come to storm your walls. They come to show you that they were never necessary. And sometimes, it hurts. Because seeing your walls come down is seeing your wounds laid bare. It's facing your past. It's accepting that you haven't always been right, that you haven't always chosen what was right for you, that you haven't always been enough. But that's precisely where Allah's mercy lies. In the truth that wounds your pride, but heals your soul. And when you finally open your eyes, you understand that this isn't just an encounter. You realize that you haven't met a random person, but an answer, a key, a reminder that heaven has never remained deaf to your prayers. Even the ones you had forgotten, even the ones you said in moments of despair, even the ones you never dared to say out loud. And this key doesn't open the door to easy comfort. It opens the door to your own heart. It forces you to enter where you were afraid to go, to look at the parts of yourself you wanted to avoid. It forces you to understand that your prayers weren't just requests. They were also calls for transformation. Because this person didn't come to distract you. They came to awaken you. Not to flatter your image, but to reveal your soul. Not to fill your emptiness, but to remind you that your emptiness could only be filled by returning to Allah. And then you feel something unexpected. It's not a lightness. It's an intensity. As if every fiber of your being understands that you are not facing a simple human choice, but a divine plan. As if your personal story is suddenly part of a larger, more vast script. One that you can neither control nor stop. And the further you go, the more you realize that everything you thought was lost, your wasted years, your accumulated mistakes, your unanswered prayers, weren't failures. They were preparations. Preparations for this very moment when Allah decided to show you. You were never alone. You thought I wouldn't answer. But I was preparing the best of answers. Then your heart beats faster. Your breath quickens. You understand that this isn't just a human encounter, but a spiritual turning point. And you feel this question burning inside you, growing until it becomes impossible to ignore. What if this person isn't just a gift, but a reminder that my life must finally change? If, while listening to this message, your heart has responded, perhaps Allah is preparing you to recognize the person He has chosen for your path. Don't keep this reminder to yourself. Share it, circulate it, because perhaps someone, somewhere, is waiting for these exact words to understand Allah's plan for their life. And above all, subscribe, because other powerful reminders await you, and each word may be the sign you are hoping to hear.